business. Correct? Sometimes they'll get annoyed and they say, you mind your own business. Being steadfast means that if you believe this person to be a mu'min, you tell him again. You try to make them see that what they're actually doing is harmful to them. That's what being steadfast means. But what happens a lot of the time, this other mu'min brother, because they're angry, they tell you to leave them alone. You just stop. When it comes to Amr bil Maruf, the same thing. Mind your own business. Why are you telling me to do this? It's beneficial for you. That's why. To be steadfast, it means what? You explain it to them in a way that when it comes to Amr bil Maruf, they do that Amr bil Maruf. They do that good deed. When it comes to Nahi anil Munkar, they refrain themselves from that good deed. But it's our objective, or it's our job, to clarify to them and to tell them as best as we can. It's up to them whether they want to take our advice or not. It's up to them. And you look at the life of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. You see everything that he went through. He was steadfast in every single occasion. What do I mean? How old was Imam Hassan alayhi salam when the Holy Prophet passed away? 8? Correct. How old was Imam Hassan alayhi salam when he saw his mother, Lady Zahra salawatullah, pass away? 8. Lady Zahra and the Holy Prophet, they passed away in the same year. He was 8. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he sees the door fall on Lady Zahra salawatullah, but he's still steadfast. And you might say, you know what? Let's say he was just a child. What does he know about being said? No. These individuals, even Sunnis, they have in their books. For example, Sahih Muslim. The Holy Prophet sitting down. Sahih Muslim, the Holy Prophet sitting down. And some people, they come to the Holy Prophet with dates as sadaqah. They put it in front of the Holy Prophet. Imam Hassan is sitting with the Holy Prophet. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, what does he do? He reaches for the date. He reaches for the date. When he reaches for the date, the Holy Prophet, he tells Imam Hassan, he says, "Oh Hassan, do you not know that sadaqah isn't for the Ahlul Bayt? Do you not know that sadaqah isn't for the Ahlul Bayt?" Muslim himself, when he's interpreting that narration, he says, it's not that Imam Hassan did not know that sadaqah is not for the Ahlul Bayt. But if Imam Hassan alayhi salam was not to put his hand out, then you and I would not know that sadaqah isn't for the Ahlul Bayt. By the Holy Prophet preventing Imam Hassan from that action, that's how these people, that's how you and I found out that sadaqah isn't for the Ahlul Bayt. And he himself, he says that Imam Hassan alayhi salam, as a child, he used to read Lawh Mahfuz. Who's this? What book is this? Is this a Shia book? No, it's not. Sahih Muslim. Muslim. This is how he talks about Imam Hassan. When it comes to being steadfast, this is one characteristic that we truly need to get from our Aimah alayhim salam. Because what happens a lot of the time in our lives, as soon as some atrocity happens, as soon as something bad happens to us, we start losing faith. We start losing faith. If we're Shia, we start losing faith in the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam first. If it gets even worse, then we start losing faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what happens. But if you're a true Shia of the Ahlul Bayt, you're going to take these characteristics from them. And being steadfast is one of those most important characteristics that every Shia needs to have within themselves. Because this is what takes you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being steadfast. When it comes to being, how does this take you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because this characteristic will be applied everywhere. When it comes to the wajibat, it gets applied. When it comes to the muharramat, it gets applied. And it's these following the wajibat and not doing the muharramat that gets us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that not it? It's these following the wajibat and not doing the muharramat is what makes our du'as be accepted. This is why the Quran says, the people that say God is one and they're steadfast. And then in another part of the Quran, those that say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one and they're steadfast, on them the angels descend. On them the angels descend. And they say to them, do not fear. Do not fear. So those people, if you look at the verse of the Quran, those people that truly are steadfast, the angels descend on them. Those people that are truly steadfast, the angels descend on them. So then you tell me from history, which of these individuals angels descended on? Because the Quran, it says if they're truly steadfast, the angels will descend on them. From the Khulafa, did the angels descend on any of those Khulafa? There was only one, that was it. Did the angels descend on any of the Khulafa other than Amir al-Mu'mineen? No. So that tells you what? That they were not steadfast. The angels would descend on who? Lady Zahra salawatullahi alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. The angels descend on who? Imam Hassan alayhi salam. The angels descend on who? Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The angels descend all the way now until Imam Zaman alayhi salam. How do we know? How do we know that the angels descend on them? What do we read in Surah Al-Qadr? Do we not read that on the night of Qadr, the Ruh and the angels descend? Who did they descend on to? They descend on the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, when the Laylatul Qadr arrives, then we'll talk about Laylatul Qadr, what its esoteric meaning is and how it applies to certain individuals of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. But who do the angels descend on? One, the verse says that angels do descend. So they must be descending on someone. Who do they descend on? If they're descending on this individual, that means that this individual is steadfast. Why? Because the Quran says that the angels descend on those who are steadfast. And if you look at Sayyid Khomeini and his 40 hadiths, his book, because this is a lot of my topics are from that book and another book that of Hurr Amili, of Tasgiyat al-Nafs, Jihad al-Nafs. These are from, a lot of my lectures are going to be from specifically from these two books. Why? Because these two books are what Ramadan is about. Both of these books are what Ramadan is about, Tasgiyat al-Nafs. This is the way that we've taken it to mean. But the people that wrote those books, for example, Sayyid Khomeini, who wrote Jahl Hadith, the 40, alaykum salam, who wrote 40 hadiths. Hurr Amili, who wrote Tasgiyat al-Nafs or Jihad al-Nafs. These people, they would not prepare themselves in the month of Ramadan. No. They prepare themselves throughout the whole year for the month of Ramadan. But what do? We try to prepare ourselves for the whole year in the month of Ramadan. And it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. What are we trying to do? All the sins that we've committed throughout the whole year, we're trying to do that in the month of Ramadan. And it's difficult. What did these Urafa do? They committed less and less, forget sins. They committed less and less makruhat. So when the month of Ramadan comes, they're as clean as possible. That's how the Urafa look at Ramadan. And look at how we look at Ramadan. We look at Ramadan, and I was noticing this. Whenever the month of Ramadan comes, all the videos that you'll see on social media, what will they focus on? What would they focus? They won't focus on the spirituality. They'll focus on the food. They'll focus on the food. They're looking at the month of Ramadan as just a festival, as just a gathering where we eat. When in reality, that's not what the month of Ramadan is for. One, two, if you're going to eat, what is the philosophy behind fasting? Isn't one of the philosophies so that you can eat like the poorest of the poor? Isn't that one of the philosophies from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam? Yes, it is. But when you look at what they're having for dinner, they're eating the way Muawiyah would eat for dinner. They're eating the way kings would eat for dinner. So it takes away from what Ramadan stands for. But when it comes to strengthening the self, when it comes to being firmly determined, what does Sayyid Khomeini say in terms of getting back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? One of the things that you need to do is you need to be resolute in what you do. You have to be steadfast in what you do. We talked about yesterday how we're still in the beginning part of his book, because in the beginning part of his book, he basically lays out the steps that you need to take to get back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does he do? He says that one thing that you need to do is you need to ponder. You need to ponder about your existence. You need to ponder about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Were you put on this world, were you put on this earth just to eat, drink, and do what the animals do, or no? Is there something greater behind you? That's what you need to ponder. Two, once you figured out that no, you know what? There's something higher for me to do in this world, then that's when your journey will start. And when your journey starts, one of the things that you need to do is you need to be resolute that from now on, whatever sins I was committing before, I'm going to stop. Whatever sins I was committing before, I need to stop. And Sayyid Khomeini himself, he says, it's from this point that your journey finally starts. And if you're not resolute, meaning that this point is what? The bunyad. This point is the asas. This point is the foundation of your journey. If your foundation is not heavy, if your foundation is not set right, what's going to happen? Whatever you build on top is going to crumble, it's going to fall down. This is why Sayyid Khomeini says that this foundation, it needs to be strong. It needs to be strong. And he goes on to say, whatever once, just pick one sin. The month of Ramadan, just one sin. And make a resolution that this one sin I'm not going to commit in all of Ramadan. Just one, whatever it is, that you continue to commit. Just one sin. Start from one sin. Add on to it. That's how this journey is supposed to be. But a lot of people, what do? They try to take on so much and they burden themselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what in the Quran? That He does not burden anyone. But what do? We end up burdening ourselves. And this is why the Urafat, they say, look, when you start on this journey, you're going to want to do this dua, this amal, that amal. You're going to want to do everything there is for you to do. You're going to want to do Salat al-Layl at night. You're going to want to do everything that you can. Why? Because you have this love right now. But this love is just burning in the beginning. If you try to do everything, this light is going to die out really quickly. Why? Because you're burdening yourself. So that's why the ulama, they say, do not try to do so much. Try to do one thing, but make it consistent. One thing, but make it consistent. Don't try to do 20 things in one day and then the next day only be able to do 2 of them. No. One thing, and make it consistent and make it last at least 40 days. Make it last at least 40 days. Why? Because when you do something for 40 days, it becomes nature for you. This number 40, it has significance within Islam. And the ulama too, they say that do something for 40 days. For example, Ziyarata Ashur, Amal Ashur. How long are you supposed to do it for? 40 days. If you want to do Amal Ashur, it's supposed to be done for 40 days. In Urdu, we call it what? Chalis. But when you want to do an Amal, it's called a Chilla. Correct? It's called a Chilla. It's supposed to be for 40 days. That's what a Chilla is. An Amal that is done for 40 days. Why? Because the benefits will be achieved in those 40 days. What does that mean? That means that whatever you're supposed to read, now for 40 days, you've trained yourself. Sometimes what happens, we do it for 40 days, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because you didn't have the ruhaniyat in you for it to work. So for 40 days, you continue to do it. Now, what are you supposed to do? A lot of people, when it doesn't work, they stop. They stop. But that's not what you're supposed to do. Those 40 days, you're bringing in that ruhaniyat within yourself. Now do it for another 40 days. And that's what the ulama say. Sometimes, for example, Amal Ashur, it's not just one chilla, it's supposed to be about 2 or 3 chillas. Because you're trying to bring that ruhaniyat with not just Amal Ashur, all these other amal too, all these other azkar too. At the very least, sometimes you're supposed to do it for 2 or 3 at times. But people, what happens? It becomes a burden for them. And this is what, for example, Sayyid Khomeini says, this is what all the other urafas say. Do not do so much that it becomes a burden for you. Because that's not what the point of this journey is. The point of this journey is for you to reach and get to the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Get to the gnosis of not just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no. Get to the gnosis of understanding His creation. Which creation? The best of His creation. The best of His creation. And inshallah, when it comes to the nights of Shahadat, we'll talk about the best of His creation and how the Gnostics, the Urafa, when they went on their journey, they came back, and you see a lot of them before going on into Irfan, a lot of them, some of these sermons of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they wouldn't accept. After Irfan, some of these sermons of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they accept. So what is it that changed them? It's what they see. They come to a realization. Inshallah, we'll look at Sayyid Khomeini. He has a book which he wrote about what? About Khilafat and Wilayat. The lamp of guidance to Khilafat and Wilayat. That's the name of his book. And in it, he talks about what true Khilafat is and what true Wilayat is. He talks about who the very first Khalifa was, and it wasn't Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. And he talks about the Wilayat, what Wilayat truly is. That's what we need to look at. And inshallah, that's what we will look at. What these individuals are. Today we're speaking about Imam Hassan alayhi salam. How was he resolute? How was Imam Hassan alayhi salam steadfast? What do we learn from his life so that we can incorporate it in our own? So that we can incorporate it in our own. For example, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he's sitting down. A Shami, he comes and he starts cursing at Imam Hassan. Not only does he curse at Imam Hassan, but he curses at his father. He curses at Amir al-Mu'mineen. What does Imam Hassan alayhi salam do? Does he get mad to curse him? No, he doesn't. He stays quiet. Once this person from Sham, he was done cursing. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he looks at him, he goes, you don't look like you're from around here. You don't look like you're from around here. Because if he truly was from around here, would he be cursing at Imam Hassan? No, he wouldn't. Who in Medina does not know Hassan ibn Ali alayhi salam? Who in Kufa does not know Hassan ibn Ali alayhi salam? Correct? So Imam Hassan, he says to him, you don't look like you're from around here. He goes, no. And based on the way he was dressed, he goes, you look like you're from Sham. He goes, yes, I'm from Sham. Imam Hassan, instead of cursing him, instead of telling his companions to go beat him up, he says, look, it seems like you've traveled from a far distance. If you want anything to eat, just let me know. You're more than welcome in my house. If you need a place to stay, let me know. You're more than welcome in my house. You're more than welcome in my house. If you need money and you want to stay somewhere else, let me know. You're more than welcome. I'll be more than happy to give to you. How many of us would be like this if someone was to curse our father? No. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. But these are the lessons that they're teaching. The same thing, the same type of incident happens with Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. But when it happens with Imam Zainul Abidin, his companions were with him. The companions, they tell Imam Zainul Abidin, Mawla, just give us permission, we'll go kill him. And Imam says, no. Leave him alone. I will take care of it. Look at the way I'm going to take care of it. And he takes care of it the same way. What does he do? He walks through his garden. When he walks through his garden, the man, he gets even angry. He goes, what are you doing? You messed up all my plants. You messed up all my plants. Imam, he says, I have a feeling you were going to sell these plants. Is that correct? He goes, yes. How much for? 300. Imam, he reaches into his pocket. He pulls out a bag with 300 dinar. He goes, here's your 300 dinar. Here's your 300. The man, he starts to cry. The same thing with Imam Hassan. The man, he starts to cry. He goes, Ya Hassan, I treated you like this. I cursed your father out. I cursed you out. Yet you're treating me like this? And he goes, yes. We are the offspring of who? Khuluq al-Azim. We are the offspring of that individual for whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that this person is on sublime morality. We inherited those moralistic traits from him. Now it's our duty to show to the world that yes, we are truly his successors. We are truly his offspring. Not just in this materialistic world, but also in the world of anwar. And this is what all the imams do. This is one of those traits that you and I need to take from Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When it comes to Imam Hassan alayhi salam, another characteristic that we all need to take, when it came to absorbing knowledge, a lot of the times we're very lax when it comes to absorbing knowledge or wanting to gain more knowledge, especially Islamic knowledge. I'm not talking about the other type of the worldly knowledge about what's happening in Yemen, what's happening in Palestine. No, I'm not talking about. No, when it comes to the Islamic knowledge, we're very lax. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, from a very young age until his father passed away, he was never lax. To the point, the narrations, they say that Amir al-Mu'mineen used to come home to Lady Zahra salawat alayha, and Lady Zahra would recite to Amir al-Mu'mineen the verses that had just been revealed. Lady Zahra would recite to Amir al-Mu'mineen the verses that had just been revealed. And he would ask, Ya Zahra, how do you know about these verses? They were just revealed. Lady Zahra would say, your son Hassan would come and tell me. Your son Hassan came and told me. At that age, what was Imam Hassan alayhi salam doing? Going with the Holy Prophet to learn about the religion. Going with the Holy Prophet to learn about Islam. Going with the Holy Prophet to learn about the Quran. Why? Because he knew that this is what was going to come in handy for him. This is what was required of him. Many of us, sometimes what do? Our children, they're not with us. We leave them free to do whatever they want when they come to the center. Do not do this. Do not do this. Either the mothers or the fathers, have them sit down. Give them some sort of treat so they can sit down. Have them sit down and listen to the lectures. Why? So then they engage. They know that they're here for a reason. They're not here just to play. They're here to learn. If you just let them free, they're going to do nothing but play. They won't learn anything. So please, the parents with children that bring them, have them sit next to, whether it's a mother, whether it's a father, it doesn't matter. If it's a boy, preferably have the father with them. If it's a daughter, have the mother. But it's sad that in a lot of the Indian Pakistani community, everything is just laid. to the mother. Everything is just put on to the mother. Oh, she needs to raise the kids, which is sad. It shouldn't be like that. The boys should be with the men so they get those manly characteristics, they get those traits. The women, the girls should be with the women, the mothers. So why? So they get those traits from the mother. But in our community, everyone just goes to the mother. And sometimes the mother becomes overwhelmed. And this becomes a problem. And if you look at the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Lady Zahra salawatullahi alayha, Hassan and Hussein would be more with who? Tell me. Who would Hassan and Hussein be with more? Would they be with Lady Zahra more, or would they be with the Holy Prophet Amir al-Mu'mineen more? The Holy Prophet, I just recited a narration where the Imam Hassan alayhi salam is coming from Masjid Nabawi with a Quranic verse and telling to his mother. The fact that he's telling it to his mother tells you that what? He was with the Holy Prophet more. Because she was learning it she was getting it from Imam Hassan. So Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, they were with the Holy Prophet more. Lady Zainab and Lady Kulthum, who were they with more? If you want, if you want the Islamic life, if you want to look at the Islamic family life, look at Amir al-Mu'mineen and Lady Zahra. Look at the way they're raising the kids. Look at who has which child. Look at that. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Because Imam Hassan he grew up in that household of Nabuwwat. Because Imam Hassan he grew up in that household of Imamat. Because Imam Hassan he grew up in that household of Taharat. You'll see that when he gets older, what does he do? He's always looking at where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Where the truth is, I should say. He's looking at where the truth is. And inshallah we'll get into some of the nuqs that some of the Sunnis have put on Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Some of them, they say that, for example, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he was a habitual divorcer. Na'uzubillah. For example, they say that he had almost 300 wives, 400 wives. Inshallah, we'll look at those misconceptions tomorrow. But some other narrations where they say that Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he was Usmani in nature, meaning that he gravitated towards Usman than to Amir al-Mu'mineen. We'll look at those, how true those misconceptions are. But you look at Imam Hassan, one thing's for sure, he looked at wherever the truth was. He looked at wherever the truth was. When the Holy Prophet already said that the truth is with Ali and Ali is with the truth, then why would he be Usmani? Why would he look anywhere else? All he needed to do was look at his father. Why? Because he knew that the Holy Prophet already said that his father is with the truth. That's why you see when it comes to the battles, and what side was Imam Hassan when it came to Siffin? Imam Ali's side. Why was Siffin fought? What did Muawiyah say? What was the reason Muawiyah wanted to fight against Amir al-Mu'mineen for Siffin? Over the murder of Usman. If Imam Hassan alayhi salam truly was Usmani in nature, then wouldn't he be in the camp of Muawiyah because he wants to revenge Usman? No, but which camp is he in? He's in the camp of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Why? Because Imam Ali alayhi salam is with the truth. You look at Nahrawan, which side is he on? You look at Jamal, which side is he on? So where did this misconception come from? That he was with, or he was Usmani in nature? You look at the life of Imam Hassan, we're talking about being resolute, we're talking about being firm, we're talking about being steadfast. Correct? Look at how steadfast he was. When he was poisoned, when Imam Hassan was poisoned, do you all know what he does? He tells his wife just to leave. He tells us after Jodda, she poisoned him. Imam Hassan, he just tells her to leave. That's it. He could have said, no, you know what? You're going to stay and you're going to be punished. No. He knew that that cup was poisoned, but he also knew that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted. That's what it means to be steadfast, to continue to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, even if you think it's going to harm you. Because it wasn't really a harm for Imam Hassan alayhi salam. No. Shahadat, there's some narrations they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made shahadat wajib on all of them. Shahadat was wajib on all of them. So it wasn't a harm for Imam Hassan alayhi salam that he drank the poison. No. It was harmful for who? The wife of Imam Hassan. Why? Because she lost this world and she lost the world to come. But Mullah Hassan, he was steadfast. He knew from an early age that this is how he was going to be shaheed. He doesn't deviate. Imam Hussein alayhi salam knew from an early age this is how he was going to be shaheed. He doesn't deviate. And this is what you and I need to do. We're not at that place yet where we're going to sacrifice our life. To get to that place, you need to go through that journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need to figure out that yes, my life is truly worth sacrificing for this individual. My life is truly worth, this person is worthy of my life. You won't be able to do it until you go through that journey. This is why they were able to sacrifice their life. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I know you guys are late. That's 2 demerits, and then 5 demerits, then that's a warning, and then after a verbal warning, then it's a written report. Okay, so. But look at the life of Imam Hassan. I know I have about 5-6 minutes, I believe. Maghrib is 25, 26, something like that. Okay, so inshallah, hopefully everyone that comes, please, let me clarify something. When you come to the masjid, please come with wuzu. Please come with wuzu. Look, the masajid are known as the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, if you say, you know what, say this is a masjid, this is Imam Barga, this is a Husayniyah. Okay, this is a house of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This is a house of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Please come here with wuzu. If it breaks in the middle of the lecture, you're more than welcome to do your wuzu and come back and sit. Do not sit in these lectures. I'm not saying that it's haram for you to sit in these places without wuzu. I'm not saying that. Please do not construe it to mean that. No. But do your best to be in wuzu. And in fact, it's recommended that you're in wuzu the whole day. It's recommended that you're in wuzu the whole day. So when you're leaving the house, if you don't do ghusl to come here, then please do wuzu to come here. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When it comes to the steadfast, when it comes to giving back, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and their cousin, they're going to Hajj from Medina. When they're on their way, they get left behind from the caravan. When they get left behind from the caravan, they come to a house and they're hungry. When they get to that house, they see that there's only an old lady. So they asked, ma'am, where's the gentleman? Where's the man of the house? And she said, the man of the house, he's gone out. He'll come back later. Well, do you need anything? And they tell her that we're from Medina, we're going to Mecca for Hajj, and we got left back, but we're hungry. Do you have anything? The lady, she says, yes, I do. There's a calf back there. If you want to slaughter it, please go slaughter it and make kebabs. Make kebabs. What do? They do it. Why? Because she gave him permission. When she gave him permission, later on, they eat, they leave, and they tell this lady, when you're ever in Medina, please ask anyone where Hassan ibn Ali is. Ask anyone where Hussein ibn Ali is. We will help you when you're in Medina. They were Bedouins. They lived out in the desert. What happens? They go. When they leave, the man of the house, he comes and he sees that he sees that the baby cow, the calf, has been slaughtered. He gets mad at her and he says, what happened here? She says that 3 gentlemen came, they were hungry, they were going to Hajj, and they needed something to eat, so I told them to slaughter this calf and eat it, and they did. He gets mad at her and says, this was our only livelihood. This was our only livelihood, and now it's gone. What are we going to do? It just so happened that in that year there was a famine where they were. What happened? They end up going to Medina. When they end up going to Medina, Medina is a big city now. These people are Bedouins. They don't have anything. The only thing they had was that calf, and they gave that calf away. What are they doing? They're picking up dung from the streets. They're picking up dung from in front of the stalls of all the other sellers. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he walks by and he recognizes that woman. And he tells her, do you remember who I am? And she says, no, I don't. Who are you? Do you remember 3 people coming to your house when they were going to Hajj and you gave them your calf? And she says, yes. Oh, yes, I do remember. He tells her that I'm Hassan. I told you when you come to Medina to come and seek me. How come you did not look for me? And he says to her, I forgot about that. She says to her, I forgot about that. And he tells her, I want you to come right now. They go to Imam Hassan's house. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he gives her 3,000 dinars and he gives her 100 calves in return for that one calf. And then he tells her, go to my brother Hussein. Go to my brother Hussein. She goes to Hussein. Hussein alayhi salam, he asks, what did my brother give you? She tells him, your brother gave me 300 dinar and he gave me all these calves. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he gives the same exact thing. The same exact amount. And there's a reason he gives the same exact amount too. And then he tells her, you're not done yet. Go to our cousin that was also with us. Go to our cousin that was also with us. She goes there. When she goes there, he asks, what did they give? They gave 300 dinars each and they gave 300 calves. He goes, this is the same exact thing I'm going to give you. This is what it means to be munificent. This is what it means to give. This is what it means to be steadfast on what? On the way of Rasulullah, on the way of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And that's what they're asking of us, to be steadfast in their way. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, tomorrow is the wiladat of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, correct? Milad apparently is going to start at 6 o'clock on the dot, inshallah. And then tomorrow's lecture will also be about Imam Hassan alayhi salam. So do not think that I was mistaken and I did my lecture on Imam Hassan today. No, both of these days will be for Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Because the reality is that Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he shares the shahadat with who? Rasulullah. When he shares the shahadat with Rasulullah, then you can either talk about Rasulullah or Imam Hassan. When it comes to Rasulullah, he shares his wiladat with who? Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. When it comes to that, then you can for that wiladat, you can either talk about the Holy Prophet or Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. Because these individuals are sharing the same day of wiladat and the same day of shahadat, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, this is the only time where he's not sharing this wiladat with anyone. So it's becoming that at the very least, he gets at the very least 2 days of zikr. So inshallah, tomorrow will also be the zikr of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of all the mu'mineen, mu'minat that are gathered here tonight, to forgive the sins of all of those marhumeen, mu'mineen, mu'minat that do not have anyone to ask for forgiveness on their behalf. And please once again recite Surah Fatiha for the marhumeen of the people that sponsored tonight's iftar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma ighfirhum warhamhum waskinhum bi jawari Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Inshallah, Milad Wiladat Imam Hussain Salam, inshallah, start tomorrow 6 o'clock. आप लोग गुजारिश के बाद कम देर रखें ताकि हम प्रोग्राम वक्त पे खत्म कर सकें.